family.
And Salama.
And welcome back to Stepping Stones of Home. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm doing well. Love, how are you doing?
I'm good.
All right, family, let's jump right into this one.
So as y'all saw from the title of the video and the intro, the American Dream or
the American Nightmare.
Yes, or the American Nightmare. So we all know, as many of us have put out videos here on the continent, and I'm pretty sure other places around the world, and I mean the continent of Africa because that is where we reside right now. They have their idea of what America is like. America is a big corporation and they do a phenomenal job at marketing themselves, right? So a lot of people don't really understand what it really is like in America. And so we're actually going to talk about some of that tonight. As you guys saw on the intro, we had some images of the civil rights movement. So it's a lot of things that our fathers fought for, our grandfathers fought for.
Our great-grandfathers.
Right, in the U.S. They fought for there to be no more segregation. They fought for voting rights. They fought for job equality. Our people fought for so many things in the U.S.
Did we get it?
Absolutely not. We thought we were. And for a while, the same tactics that they used for people all around the world, they made it look so good to our ancestors, our fathers there, like we were actually starting to come up, and Black excellence was starting to come up, but in actuality, it actually was not. So that's kind of what we want to talk about, the things that have changed drastically in America. And the reason we want to talk about this is because there are so many people that we hear, our people,
that look like us,
African Americans, I don't care what you call yourself, that say they don't want to leave America. They believe that things are going to get better in America, or that they don't want to come to the continent of Africa.
They're drinking that Kool-Aid. They're drinking that Kool-Aid.
They drink something stronger than that. So a lot of people are delirious. They're like frogs in a pot of slowly boiling water. And they don't realize that they're about to be boiled alive. Right. In America, our people. So, my thing is, how in the world do y'all think y'all gonna stay in America? So, just for us to talk about right now, Trump has been in office
only 8 months.
8 months? 8 months.
Maybe nine. And
there have been major changes within the 8 months that he's been in office. So, we're gonna get into those things. So for those of you who may have been questioning whether you should leave, and at this point, I'm not telling anybody to come to the continent of Africa. You ain't got to come here. But it would be a good idea to go somewhere.
Let's say it like how Grandma and them used to say it. Baby, you ain't got to come home, but you got to get up out of there. So let's talk about some executive orders that Trump has made just in the last, not even the last 8 months. This was in the beginning of his term when he became president for his second term. So look, let me read these to you guys. The first one we're going to talk about is Executive Order 14173. This is the executive order to end illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. Now, this was signed January 21st of 2025. What this executive order did, it got rid of a long-standing rule that was from 1965 that required companies working with the federal government to actively take steps to hire and promote minorities, Black folks, women, and other underrepresented groups. Now, companies only need to promise they don't discriminate, but they don't have to prove that they are fixing inequality or improving diversity thanks to this executive order. So that means companies must also certify that they don't have DEI programs, that could be seen as giving preference to certain groups. So what that means is they can't have anything that says, we're making sure that people of color or the alphabets, I don't like talking about them, but it's there,
or
minorities have been given an opportunity for a certain job at a company. They no longer are required to have to do that. Right. All right. So let's break this down in layman's terms, because look, all that political talk, I was telling the wife, I'm like, babe, I don't know this big word. That's why I'm reading off my thing here. But I translated this into layman's terms so I could understand. Before this, if any company had a government contract, they had to work hard to make sure black workers and women had a fair shot at jobs and promotions. They might have mentorship programs, diversity hiring goals, or outreach to communities of color. Now, they don't have to do any of that anymore. They just need to say, we don't discriminate, even if the company's workforce is mostly white or male. So this will make it easier for old hiring patterns to stay in place, which can lock black workers out of certain industries or high-paying jobs. So, and many of the diversity and mentorship programs will disappear because the companies don't want to risk losing contracts. So what does that mean? That means that part of this act is telling these companies, if you give these jobs to people of color, then we're going to not allow you to get certain government contracts, or we're not going to allow you to get certain government subsidies for things you need to run your company. People start companies and make money, so what do you think they're going to do?
As if they find out you're abiding by those old DEI acts. So what does this sound like to y'all? Like, before, we couldn't have jobs and stuff like that in the U.S.
Right.
So
how many of y'all remember segregation?
Right. So you're going back to those things that, like I said, our fathers, our grandfathers fought for, to actually be able to have equality when it comes down to jobs, and even, for women to be able to have certain types of jobs.
Right.
That's where we are.
Yeah. Literally, I feel like they're trying to get back to where whites only, coloreds only. That's what I believe that they're trying to get back to. And this is where y'all want to stay. I don't get it. But listen, let's go forward. Let's go into the next executive order that he did. This was from January 20th of this year. Executive Order 14151, which was about ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. So what this order did was it ordered all federal departments to shut down DEI offices and programs. It ended requirements for government agencies to track diversity in hiring, promotions, or federal services, remove training materials and internal programs related to equity or inclusion. So what they're doing is, think of it like this. They're shutting down the referee who watches to make sure that you're being fair. So before DEI office kept track of whether black communities, they were getting a fair share of the opportunities, right? Like grants, contracts, and services. Now those offices, they're gone. They're out of there, So there's no one officially keeping score. So this means that the black-owned businesses, they're going to lose access to special government programs that once helped them compete with the larger white companies.
Right.
Complaints about unfair treatment during federal programs, they're going to get ignored now or delayed because there's really no oversight board to look at your complaints anymore. All right. So in everyday life, it may feel like the government no longer cares about or tracking and fixing inequality when it comes down to people that are minorities in America anymore.
Right. And so I want y'all to think about something. So one thing that it was a big boom in the U.S., especially in the South, of black businesses, right? And maybe I'm just saying the South because I lived there and we heard so much of it because we lived in Atlanta. But there are so many black businesses that had began to open in the U.S. And there were certain programs that were geared towards the black communities or minorities that gave them the opportunities to actually have these black businesses. Also, there were also opportunities that helped them to stay in business. So now that they've cut out these programs for those of us who look like us, who want to open businesses and everything, those programs are no longer there.
Gone.
So there's nothing to help them to actually start these companies now. So that means you're going to see a decline in Black businesses because there are no longer any of these subsidies or programs that help Black people or minorities to actually run their businesses.
Yeah. So let's talk about this last executive order here. Executive Order 14281 is called the restoring, equality of opportunity and metriocracy. That's a big word for me. We're just gonna move on from that. Signed April 23rd, 2025. Look, I told y'all, look. Big words ain't me. So this act has stopped the government from using the disparate impact rule in enforcing discrimination laws. Under this rule, the government could act if a policy hurt a certain group more than others, even if it wasn't obviously racist. Now, discrimination can only be punished if there's clear proof it was intentional. So what does that really mean? So what it's saying is that before the government could step in, even if discrimination was hidden, as long as the outcome was clearly unfair. So here's an example. If a bank denies a loan in a mostly Black neighborhoods way more often than in white neighborhoods, the government could challenge them, and even if the bank never said, we don't lend to Black people, that the government could step in and fight for you. But now, unless there's a smoking gun, like unequivocal evidence, like an email or something saying, I don't mess with Black people, coming from the bank or your landlord or anybody like that, the government can't take any type of action. You're going to have like all kinds of videos, a written script, all of that, because they're going to be like, oh no, that's AI generated. So there's no coverage for us anymore.
Right. So there it is with the jobs now, because Black people, you're not entitled to actually be employed anymore in the US. And we know the majority of companies are not owned by us. They're owned by palm color people. Mm-hmm. So if these people don't want to hire you, they don't have to anymore. Also, if they fire you, there's no protection for you anymore.
Right.
So, there are a couple of videos that we're going to show in a moment here. Look, y'all, it's getting terrible in the US. And like we said, 8 months. 8 months of this. And this is what's happening right now in the US. So we're going to show y'all these couple of videos real quick.
But before we show them the videos, let's tell them about what's going on in the education. So the removal of the DEI programs has hurt our children in their education as well. So let me go into this for you guys. Before, there were federal programs to help schools support Black students and close racial achievement gaps. Teachers received training to understand cultural differences and fight bias in the classroom. Schools could get grants for after-school programs, for tutoring and mentorship aimed at struggling students. Now, a lot of that support is gone, y'all. They've gotten rid of it. Mm-hmm. Some of the schools, they're now losing money for the program, since losing the money for the programs that help kids in poorer neighborhoods. The teachers have gotten less training because the money's no longer there. And so they're starting to see that our children that look like us, they're failing more, because we know that things have been set up for them to fail in the first place. Mm-hmm. The teachers, they have teachers that work for them that don't really care about our students anymore, our children, and they don't want to do anything. So now they're not being held by no government program saying you have to teach these children. So they don't care anymore.
Right. The programs are gone. So you all remember the movie Lean on Me?
Lean on me.
Okay, babe, really?
Okay. No. Sorry.
You all remember the movie Lean on Me? And I think Cooley High also. So those movies back then, they talked about how the school system were in the Black communities years ago. And those movies were based on real stories we had textbooks that, had pages missing. They were scribbled in. They were used textbooks. There wasn't a lot of funding that went.
Pages missing.
Right. There wasn't a lot of funding that went to schools in the Black community. So our children didn't get what other children in palm-colored communities got. So when you stop these programs and the funding for certain things that these schools need, that means no more good textbooks, for the children. So you need your textbooks to be able to look in and do your homework. If you don't have them, how do you study properly with the textbooks that we have? And I get it, some of the stuff is online and stuff now, but that brings up another problem, because a lot of schools, they actually give funding for laptops for the students now, because a lot of the textbooks are online. Every household in America does not have a laptop.
Or internet.
And I know that people be like, but they have devices. All these children have devices. I get it, but you still need a computer to actually do the work and have access to the books where you can clearly see the screen and everything. So everybody knows during COVID time, all of us had to homeschool our children.
Mm-hmm.
I was homeschooling, and
others that were homeschooling.
Right. And so if programs like this stop, then our children
suffer.
They can't even get the laptops.
Right.
So we need things like that. We have extracurricular activities, sports, and things like that that our children are able to participate in. If funding stops, those extracurricular activities stop for the children as well. Also, if funding is cut for those schools in these areas, then guess what? They can't pay the teachers the wages that they need to get. So then you have a shortage of teachers because they actually need to make a certain amount of money. Look, or they just can't afford to hire a certain amount of teachers at that school. So these programs are important.
Very important.
So, and I get it when it comes down to jobs and everything. And I've heard that, the DEI didn't really benefit the Black community that much. I get it, but still, it's not even about if it was benefiting that much or not. It's literally just seeing how everything is being overturned to where it now is working against people of our color now in the U.S.
And if you think that it's not affecting our people, watch this video.
Pay attention to the Black unemployment numbers. That's not my guidance. That's the guidance from economists and experts who know much more about this than I. But let me explain. Right now, the U.S. unemployment rate is at 4.3%. We just learned that very few jobs were added in August, about 22,000. That's not good. If you were to describe this via text, you send a red alarm emoji. Now, for Black workers, the data is worse. For now, another month, the unemployment rate is going up. It's now 7.5%. That's the highest it's been since October of 2021. And it's a number we've been watching ever since it was 6.8% in June. It's 2 alarm emojis. You dig even deeper, and you'll find that Black women are disproportionately struggling right now. The jobless rate for Black women is at 6.7%. The last time it was that high, September of 2021, back during the pandemic. Add one more red alarm emoji. Why is this happening? Economists have told us that when we see the unemployment rate going up for Black people, it's a sign that it could soon go up for all people. And as our CNN business team explains, Black workers are disproportionately employed in frontline and lower wage industries, as well as the government.
As you all saw from that video, the unemployment rate is starting to rise very quickly in the U.S.
Skyrocket.
And like the gentleman said on the video, when you see unemployment starting to raise that much in the Black community, it's an indicator that it's getting ready to happen across all nationalities in the U.S. So right now it's higher amongst the African American community, and that's both male and female. However, the highest percentage of those the unemployment is geared towards Black women.
Yes.
So I'm gonna just read y'all this article really quickly. so you can see what I'm talking about, because it's really crazy, and I didn't know that it was this bad. But let me just read this article to you really quickly. In Trump's federal workforce cuts, Black women are among the hardest hit. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this article. If you want on your own time, you can go back and read this. But this was the section that, I'm focusing on right now. The most recent labor statistics show that nationwide, Black women lost 319,000 jobs in the public and private sectors between February and July of this year. The only major female demographic to experience significant job losses during this 5-month period, according to an analysis by Katika Roy, a gender economist. Experts attribute those job losses in large part to Mr. Trump's cut to federal agencies where Black women were highly concentrated. White women saw a job increase of 142,000 and Hispanic women of 176,000 over the same period of time, while white men saw the largest increase among groups, 365,000 over the same time period. So, can y'all believe that?
That's crazy.
That's over 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs up until April of this year. I'm sorry, July of this year. That's a lot of jobs that have been lost amongst the Black community. And I don't think it's going to slow down. I don't think it's going to slow down at all. And you can't say that it's because we're not educated, we don't know what we're doing. Black women are some of the most educated people in the world.
And the crazy thing is, 300,000 of our women. Now, you guys know right now, it takes both people in the household to take care of the household, to provide enough for the cost of living in the households today. And let's just be honest, in our community, it's a lot of single mothers and single fathers that are taking care of these children. So if these mothers are losing their jobs, who's taking care of these kids now?
Right. So we have a couple more videos about the cost of living that we're going to show you right now.
No, it's really bad when entire generations like Gen Z and millennials are just basically throwing up their hands and saying, what's even the point?
This is what I'm struggling with in America right now in my 20s. Why is everything so expensive? Why am I making more money waitressing than I would make using my college degree? I barely have a life. I have 2 days off and I work Wednesday to Sunday, doubling just to pay my bills. At 22 years old, all of my bills are in my name. I have no help. How are y'all affording housing? In Myrtle Beach, a 1-bedroom apartment is $1,500. How are y'all getting insurance, going to the doctor, getting medicine? And then some of us are trying to be TikTok influencers. Who knows where that's going to get me? Me and my boyfriend are saving, but we barely see each other during the week, and it feels like we're working our off for nothing. Do we need to move somewhere for a better job opportunity that we don't know about? Do any of y'all really know what you want to do with your life right now? It is so scary being in America right now.
What am I doing wrong? I work every day and I'm still broke. Like, I have a decent job, I make some decent money, but I live out here in Cali. Like, bro, as soon as I get paid, I have all these bills stacked up, bro.
Lives expenses are $7,000 a month, and we don't live a life of luxury. We have a 9-year-old and 2 4-year-olds, and we also have 2 dogs. So let me break down the expenses for you. We've owned our home since 2014, and we live in Utah. So here's everything: our mortgage, our home equity line of credit, which we use to consolidate debt. We have a Subaru loan. The loan is for $35,000, but we can only sell it probably for $30,000. So we're gonna try and get as much as we can out of it. We have a van. We have like $6,000 on the loan, so I'm hoping that we can keep that. And then we have our auto insurance, our cell phone bill, we have our utilities, and our Google fiber internet, gas for our cars, food, dog food, and life insurance. So that adds up to $6,457. And if we sell the van and if we sell the Subaru, get something for cash, I would take down our auto insurance, $100 a month, that would be $5,556. I didn't even include any like medical pays, deductibles, any vet bills, any lessons or extracurricular classes, any school fees, hobbies, babysitting, any gifts, holidays, savings, vehicle maintenance, registration, house maintenance, clothing, concerts, eating out. So that's just the bare bones. And we have a really great interest rate. If you're thinking that $7,000 is a lot for a family of 5, I want to see how much you spend for your family, what state you're in. I think it's a lot, but that's how much everything is. Everything's just getting more and more expensive.
So what y'all think about that?
I think it's crazy.
So look,
Babe, almost 7,000.
almost 7,000.
What?
There were more videos that I watched, and some people were over 7,000 per month for households of 4 to 5 people. And here's the thing. I know that these people are not lying. Why? Because we actually asked family members how much it's costing them to live every single month. And their numbers were around the same thing, between $600 and $7,500, something like that, USD per month. Per month. Now, as you saw on one of those videos, this lady didn't even add in her health insurance. She didn't add in stuff like that.
School trips for her kids.
Right, which we know children, you have to buy school supplies. They have all sorts of extracurricular activities where they need, funds for those things.
Yep.
It's so many other things that you need funds for in the U.S. So that wasn't included in her numbers. So if you add those other things in that she did not include, it's going to bring you up to that cost as well.
And those videos showed you, like my wife was saying, it's starting off with our people, but you see now by those videos, it's affecting people, them palm-colored people too. So just like the guy
Right.
said in the video, when you see it happening to us, it's going to start affecting them too.
Right.
And who you think they going to blame?
Right. And so there are some sisters I wanted to show their videos, but they have music in the background and we didn't want any issues with that. So
Copyright stuff.
those were the videos. And even the younger generations, they're concerned because they don't know how they're going to take care of themselves because they're working and working
And working.
and working. And the only thing they can do is work. There is no money for outside of work.
Listen, I don't condone it. I don't eat like fast food stuff like McDonald's and all that. Well, first of all, we ain't got McDonald's over here. But I'm just saying, it's bad when people can't afford to go get a Big Mac or something from McDonald's. They can't go to Wendy's and get the 4 for $4 anymore. It's crazy. All of these things are affecting our communities. There was acts that were put in place to protect our communities. And these have been reneged on, as we would say when we play spades, by Trump and his administration. You have the Community Reinvestment Act, which deals with banks and minority communities. Before Trump took place, the Community Reinvestment Act, which dealt with banking access, required banks to help meet the needs of their whole community, meaning black, white, brown, yellow, however you want to describe it. It was meant for everybody. They were supposed to treat everybody equally, and this act made sure that these banks were kept in check by this act to take care of the people in their communities. But since Trump has come in, that's been changed, and they've rescinded that act. So what does that mean? The changes to that rule, it affects how aggressively banks are obligated to lend, invest, or provide services in historically black areas. That's really what it means, just in layman's terms. All right. That means in our communities, there's going to be fewer resources, less favorable terms on our loans, and less access under banking regulations that were geared toward equitable access. Meaning, things for us are rates skyrocketing. All right. Whether you even get the loan, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be denied now. That's what they've done because nothing is being left for us. They're letting us know you got one or another decision to make. You can either stay and be our slave again, or you can leave.
Right. I just read an article the other day, and it was talking about Navy Federal and how I believe it was 60.
Wait, are they?
Don't say that too loud. 60 to 70% of the loans for our colored people were denied. So when way over 50% for palm colored people were not denied, and it had nothing to do with your credit standing nor your income, and these were home loans. So it's crazy, because I know some of us, our generation and the generations before us, we were able to get homes, we were able to get loans. But we have to think about the young people that are coming up behind us. What are our children going to do? What happens to you if you have to actually refinance your home? What happens if you have to take out a second mortgage on your home? I know nobody wants to have to do that, but sometimes it's necessary. And this is not the only bank. There are a list of banks.
Too many banks.
So many of them that we are so familiar with, that this is how they do our community. It's just not broadcast. And it's getting worse, because these acts now have been put in place where nobody is held accountable anymore for doing these things. It is open season in the U.S. So, it's just really ridiculous what's going on right now. One more executive order we want to talk about. It's one that has been in the news recently. It's gotten a lot of attention. And do you have that pulled up?
Yeah, I've got it. Here we go. So the executive order my wife is referring to is called the Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect Innocent Citizens. So what this executive order does, it empowers the state and local police to aggressively enforce laws in communities, ours, especially where local leaders have imposed what the order calls political or legal handcuffs. So the White House requires the Attorney General to provide legal defense and indemnification for law enforcement officers who incur expenses or liabilities for actions taken while doing their jobs, including via pro bono private legal help. Also, the White House says that they expand training, paid benefits, protections, and resources for law enforcement. They also encourage the use of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions, non-lethal tools, and personnel in supporting police operations, unless they're afraid for their life. And the White House will be directing periodic review of federal consent decrees, out-of-court agreements, and court orders that constrain local police to remove those considered to unduly restrict enforcement. So the White House is going to prioritize prosecution of state and local officials who willfully and unlawfully obstruct law enforcement or who use DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, initiatives in ways the order characterized as discriminatory or as restricting law enforcement activity. So what does that really mean? What is this executive order really saying? What it's saying is the government is telling police to get tougher, especially where there are local restrictions or accountability measures. The police officers will have more legal protection if they're sued or blamed for doing their jobs in ways local governments might have tried to limit. This order gives police more tools, higher pay, better training, access to a surplus of military gear and weaponry, and potentially cooperation with national security or defense agencies. Also, local officials who limit the police power, whether it be an agreement or court oversight or anything that is considered DEI or anti-bias efforts, they might be sued or forced by the federal government to back off. Essentially, it shifts power toward law enforcement and away from local oversight and restrictions. So you guys see, they are really coming after our communities with these executive orders.
Right.
They're designed for our communities.
Right. And I think about it like with the police and everything. Why do you need military grade weapons for civilians? Like, what kind of war zone do you expect to be going into? You're going into communities. You are not going to fight a war against another country. Yet they're supplying the military, the police, law enforcement with these things.
You know what it is? It's when you have a palm-colored person that goes into a school and shoots it up with an AR-15, or they go into a church like what happened in Charleston and they shoot it up. You know, they take them to Burger King afterwards. They don't pull any guns on them. They do that. But you have a black man who says, they tell him, put your hands up, and he puts his hands up. They tell him to get down on his knees. He gets down on his knees. And while he's down on his knees, they shoot him, or they put their knee on his neck like how they did George Floyd, because they're afraid of us with no weapon in our hand.
There's no consequences anymore for them. And even, you know, them trying to say, listen, we don't care if you have to do pro bono work. We need the best attorneys to be able to defend
Our officers to make sure they get away with murder.
Right. So, and anybody that stands up against them, then they're scrutinized and they're taken out of their positions and everything. That's, you know, like my husband read in that article, because they can easily say, oh, you're falling in line with DEI, you know? And so that's why you have articles and you have, you know, federal judges even that are complaining about the things that are going on now, because even their authority is being taken away.
It means nothing.
So that law, it touches everybody from the bottom. I don't want to say all the way to the top, but all the way to the top to where we were supposed to have some sort of defense, some sort of, you know, governing body to actually defend us. There is none anymore. It's gone.
Right.
And I say us because
it's affecting us.
I'm African American. I don't live there anymore.
Hallelujah.
But you know, for our people that are over there,
right,
it affects us tremendously. So I'm gonna show a couple of videos that we already saw. Well, many of you already saw.
Right.
And these things have already gone in effect. So a lot of the things that people were afraid of, these things are already happening.
Yeah. Check this out.
All hell is breaking loose in Washington, D.C. because Donald Trump just deployed 1,000 National Guards. So just moments ago, Donald Trump declared a public safety emergency in Washington, D.C., announcing an unprecedented federal takeover of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department and deployed up to 1,000 National Guard troops into the city under the banner of Liberation Day. And now Attorney General Pam Bondi has been appointed to oversee the Washington D.C. Police Department, shifting local law enforcement under direct federal command. And the reason for this is because Donald Trump painted a vivid picture of the chaos that happens in Washington, D.C., even saying that it outcrimes places like Bogota, Colombia, and other worse places to be around the world, citing that their crime rates, their homelessness, their graffiti, and their urban decay far surpasses many other cities. And he declared that there will be no safe harbor of violent criminals in D.C. and demanded homeless encampments to be cleared out immediately, with residents relocated out of the city.
So as you saw in that video, and you saw that brief little clip of an article, it's already happening. The National Guard, they're already in DC, and it doesn't make any sense why they're there, because like people have been saying, statistically the crime rate actually is down, so it makes no sense for them to actually be there. So for a lot of people who don't know, DC is like it's a black community. And I was surprised when I went to DC for the first time, because I'm like, wait, here's the White House and all of the museums and all this stuff in DC, and then here's the black community right there. I'm like, this is interesting, because I never would have thought there would be that many black folks that surrounds DC area.
Right.
But DC, there is a huge population of African Americans that live there.
Yeah. Wait, what? If anybody from DC is watching this video, y'all call yourself Chocolate City, I believe. So y'all let me know in the comments. I think it's called Chocolate City.
Right. So you got the National Guard there, and then in the clip of the article, you see that he is sending troops also to Memphis and then to Chicago. So y'all think about this: DC black, who in Memphis, who in Chicago?
Come on now.
So he's sending these troops to black communities.
Right.
Black communities. Why is he sending troops to black communities?
And why he ain't sending nobody to Dakota, Nebraska? None of that. You don't hear none of that. Wisconsin. You don't hear about them going there. You know what I'm saying?
It makes no sense. Yeah, I know that there's crime everywhere, and a lot of people want to talk about black on black crime, and everything. Look, we ain't the ones shooting up schools. Okay? We ain't the ones planting bombs and all kind of stuff like that. We don't do stuff like that.
Right.
So, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So these things have already been implemented, and it's going to continue. It's not going to stop with just those cities. A lot of people say, oh, they haven't declared martial law. In so many words, they have.
Without calling it
martial law, because you got the darn military in the cities.
Roaming the streets.
So it doesn't make any sense. Why are you in the streets with your guns and all kind of stuff like that? What are you there for? Is there a war that you're fighting there? Like, what is going on?
Right.
So it's crazy to me. Just seeing all this stuff unraveling, and I'm sitting here looking at all these articles and videos, and I'm like,
right.
This is wild.
So, yeah, guys, it's crazy what's going on over there. I'm praying hard for y'all. But listen, I want you to check out this next article here. Talking about a bill that was introduced called the Thought Police. Now, what this bill is set to do is to strip citizens that speak ill of the state of Israel of their passports, meaning you won't be able to allowed to travel or go anywhere because of what you said about Israel. Now, I know you might be saying, well, what does that have to do with everything you've been talking about? This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Because they're going to use this bill as a precursor to strip people from being able to leave the U.S., to make it a prison. So you say anything bad, give me your passport. You can't travel. You can't escape. It reminds me, I was telling the wife, it reminds me of the Exodus, when every time the Most High would send a plague, Pharaoh would be like, okay, they can go. But then he would do something and say, no, you can't go. And that's really what I feel like they're trying to do. They're trying to stop you guys from leaving. And they're putting these things in play now so that when it happens, they'll say, well, this is a law that you say something bad about Israel right now, or next thing you know, you say something bad about the president or about them canceling DEI programs, you can't go anywhere.
Right. It's ridiculous because back to the title of the video, The American Dream, what happened to all the freedom of speech and everything? Now, if you say something not even about America, the US of A, somewhere way, a whole nother country,
you get in trouble.
They want to be able to take your passports away so that you can't travel. You didn't do anything to anybody. You just spoke against another nation. Right. And they want to take your passports away. That is absolutely no sense. They already have all of the surveillance going on in the U.S. They have all of these robotic dogs and different stuff like that they're trying to put on the street. They got the military on the street now, and now they want to revoke your right to just say something negative about another country that's not even the country that you're in. They want to be able to take your passports.
Right.
They're literally taking away all of your freedom in the U.S. And it definitely is for everybody, but you can see that there is a direct target on the African American community. Y'all know we big mouth people. And y'all know when we get upset, we say stuff, and you know we have.
It's the truth what we be saying. It's the truth what we be saying. But they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth.
So all these things are really targeting our people, our communities. So go ahead.
So guys, like we said, we see what's happening, and we're just pointing these things out to you because we want you guys to realize there is no American dream.
Right.
It is the American nightmare.
Right. So you can't, let's go down the list. You need 2 incomes for you to be able to live in the US. Like, who in the world is making $7,000 per month? Like, what person is making that? The average American, Black American, we're not making that in the US.
That don't include trying to save money for your kids to go to college or to do things with your family. That's just paying your regular bills.
So you need 2 incomes, yet they're firing so many Black women. So what happens to the households now? Because you need the 2 incomes.
Right.
So now you're really suffering. You can't pay your bills. Now, if you can't pay your bills, you can't pay your mortgage and stuff. Now you get put out of your house. Now, if you can't pay your rent, now you get put out of your house. So, you know, what happens? The police are no longer held accountable for anything they do. That's why it's hunting season in the U.S. right now.
Yeah. The Black cities, they're being targeted by the National Guard and under the order of the U.S. government. So the Black communities are being targeted for martial law.
Right. And then, like we just said, they want to be able to take your passports away just willy-nilly.
Right.
And that's going to continue, not just in speaking against a different nation, but it's going to, like my husband said, continue with anything that you speak against the country or the government there.
Right. And all these things are being done because at some point, them palm-colored people, they're going to start blaming us.
They've already started.
Right, because these things are going to be, well, you already saw the video, they're affecting them. So what they're actually trying to do, they're trying to start a race war. They're trying to say it's blacks versus whites. So that way, all the good old boys, all the militia boys, they can get ready to come on out and say, oh, Trump, just give us the green light. Let us go out there and handle it. It'll be done by Sunday. But look, y'all, you ain't got to be there for that.
Right. So if all of this stuff happened within 8 months, 8 months, and we didn't even talk about all the stuff that has happened. 8 months of this man being in office. He got 3 more years. Can you imagine what things are going to take place within that time frame?
How y'all gonna stay there?
How in the world are y'all gonna stay in America, my people? How are you gonna stay there? For those who saying that you don't want to leave, you think things are going to get better, things have gotten worse. This man has shown his true colors, and it's going to get worse. How are you going to stay there? You don't have to come to the continent of Africa, but I've said this so many times. You need to go somewhere. The continent of Africa, I know, is some stuff that go on. It can be a little difficult to maneuver at first when you come here, but there are other countries that make it a bit more black and white for you to be able to. The thing is, get out of there.
Right.
Get out of there while you can. Because if you stay there, what is going to be your quality of life?
Think about your children. What is going to be their quality of life?
Right.
You know, so guys, please, everything that we've said in this video, I want you to take it into consideration. Now listen, this is only part 1 of this video. Right.
This video is geared more towards African Americans, okay? Because it's 2 sides to this. We have our African American brother and sister who needs to leave and some don't want to leave. And then we have some of our brothers and sisters on the continent who just feel like America is the end all be all.
The greatest thing since sliced bread.
And so part 2, we're going to be actually addressing some other things that our brothers and sisters on the continent don't know about the U.S., that they really need to see, and they need to hear it from their own people who were born here.
Right. So guys, thank you guys for listening to us. We didn't mean to keep y'all on here this long, but this is a strong topic for us. you know, but we say all this out of love
Yes.
because we don't want to see nothing happen to none of our people. And so like we said, this was just part one. You guys stay tuned. Part two will be coming out in a couple days. And guys, listen, if you would like to support what we are doing here on the continent, you can support us in a few different ways. You can support us by, if you're not a subscriber, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time one of our videos comes on. Like this video and comment on it. Tell us what you think about the things we talked about in this video. Also, if you would like to support us through Cash App, you can do that, or you can become part of our Repack family and become a Patreon member.
Yes.
So as for me and my lovely wife, we love y'all and we thank y'all again. You have anything else, love?
For those of you who want information on repatriating to the continent, you know that we offer that information as well. We don't put a price on it, but if you would like to give us a donation, it most definitely is welcome because those donations do help us to continue to be able to put out videos.
Yes.
And so if you need more information, reach out to us and we'll make sure that we get back to you so that we can give you the information that we have to try and make your transition a little bit easier.
All right, family. We'll see you in the next video. Shalom.
Shalom.
Freedom.